Welcome to Authentic Magnetism, the channel. We help coaches, course creators, and spiritual entrepreneurs find their authentic voice and magnetize soul-aligned clients. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and follow along for more. Now let's get on with the episode. But let's talk branding. So your brand, when you're looking at it from a Gene Keys perspective, you're going to look at your conscious sun, so the gate and line in your conscious sun. And your brand speaks to the alignment between your inner world and your outer world. And when you can really hit this authentic vibe in this energy between the gate and the line energy and how you're expressing that to the outer world, this is going to feel really like coming home. It's going to feel very very familiar and very good in the way that you express yourself, because this really is your truth. Now, the thing is, we have all of these mechanisms for hiding our truth and for protecting ourselves, because I think everybody, you don't get to adulthood without having some sort of trauma, criticism, something where you've had negative feedback when you've expressed yourself authentically. So it can be really, you can be kind of digging through a lot of these shadows and the patterns that you've developed to hide your truth. And I think when we really talk about this from a business perspective, and if you're having trouble really hitting that vibe and really hitting that messaging right on, a lot of it, I think, has to do with addressing some of the trauma that we've had around our being and expressing our authentic self and not feeling safe to express our authentic self. So, but if you can hit that really authentic vibe in your messaging, it's going to be the sweet spot for your business. Your brand also speaks to how you are going to shine your light to the outer world. It is your conscious sun. So it is how it's the light that shines on you. So your conscious sun is determined by the position of the sun. So the position is that gate of the sun when you were born. So this was your first experience with the world. And that's kind of the imprint of how you are meant to go through life and experience challenges in life. So your brand is going to speak to your authentic truth that you're here to sell the world. And in Richard Rudd's book, it was the Prosperity, the Golden Path. So he's got the main book with all the different descriptions, and then he's got the four sequences that you can go through. So it was the prosperity one. And he talks about that everybody's a natural salesman for your own truth. And we have to kind of gain that confidence in speaking your truth. And then the sales really come naturally to everybody, because if we can gain that confidence to speak our truth, it is hugely magnetic to the right people. And it's also quite repelling to the wrong people, just FYI. So he also speaks of having these four tools that make up kind of our core set of skills that we use to solve all the problems well, not all the problems, because it's still only four energies in your chart, but these four he speaks of as being your gifts that you bring to the world. So taking a look at the conscious sun just on its own is not always the best place to, like, you want to look at the conscious sun in that spectrum of your four gifts. And this in Gene Keys is called the activation sequence. It's the four gates of your incarnation cross. So we've got your conscious sun, conscious earth, unconscious sun, and unconscious earth. So once you're done doing your contemplation about your conscious sun, don't forget the rest of those, because those are kind of that skill set that you're going to bring, and they all support each other. So you don't really look at your brand without looking at those other skills that you're bringing to the table. And you need these four skills to initiate this prosperity sequence. So that's kind of where he starts in the Golden Path book. So brand as the conscious sun, it's going to speak to your style and frequency of your outward appearance. So it's a direct quote from Richard Rudd. And it represents your individual expression. And this should be simple and clear. So you should be able to kind of boil down your expression and your brand and how you communicate your brand in your business in a simple and clear way. You also want to remove the static to attune to your fractal line. So your soul aligned clients is one of the ways I talk about this. And like I talked before about having trauma, a lot of times we create all this static and confusion around our brand when really it can come down to very simple concepts. You also want to reflect on your truth and what is true for you. Your truth is going to be different than anybody else's truth. And it's something that, we talked about. I don't think I've talked much about fractal lines, but essentially we've got these fractal lines in the world, which are kind of the people that are meant to engage with each other most. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that your fractal line is people you get along with. Sometimes you have people on your fractal line that are people you learn from, and experiences that are, learning experiences. But essentially, your fractal line people are the people that are meant to be attracted to each other, and work through life and problems together. So when you're able to kind of get that frequency in your brand and your messaging, your marketing, your offers, then it's going to be attractive to your fractal line people because they're vibing at that same sort of frequency, or they know that that frequency is going to help them get to where they want to go. Your brand should also be a really familiar energy to you. And it should feel kind of like coming home. It should feel relaxed. It should feel like you. It should feel like your truth. And it helps us find our authenticity and attune to this gate. And a couple days ago, I did a whole presentation about authenticity. And I think that's worth having a quick review of that presentation. On YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be on the same channel. If you're watching on the Facebook Lives, I actually suggest you check it out on YouTube because I've got a whole presentation instead of just this talking head situation. So check it out on YouTube if you're on Facebook. I've also got this, I'm going to repurpose. I believe really strongly in repurposing content. So the audio is going to be taken from all of the presentations and also available in podcast form over the next little while. So tune in however works best for you. But check out the presentation I did on authenticity as well, because I think these two concepts really go well together. Okay, so brand. You are the brand. And you don't necessarily align to your brand. You're going to remove your resistance to it and gain your confidence in communicating it in that clear way to others. This is energy that can feel very private to us. We can be very sensitive about it. So it's important to kind of develop a bit of a resilience around it when we choose to communicate our brand to public. And this energy typically should feel very familiar to you, and you often have a lot of wounding around it. So your messaging can get lost, or a lot of times one thing I really see a lot is that you dumb down your messaging, or you take the intensity out of what you really want to say and you bring it down to what you think people will accept out of your messaging. So by reflecting on your brand in this way, from this perspective of the Gene Keys, it really becomes like, how can you enhance and magnify your brand and your voice and the passion that you have for what you do, rather than manipulating it in a way that you think others will consume effectively. So your product or offer is a reason to communicate a specific frequency to your fractal line. And you want to be as clear about what that frequency is as you can, which is your offer, who it's for, and what problem it solves. And I've done a lot of work around this whole getting clear part. I think it's probably, the whole conversation is probably for another day. But I spent a very long time thinking that I was clear about what I was doing, who I was serving, and how I was serving them. but I wasn't. And it wasn't until I really fit all the pieces together myself and did that deep work and that reflection on what do I really want to do. And for me, it also came down to a question of like, is the exposure and putting myself out there, because this is a topic that I'm super passionate about, is that exposure worth the possibility of being seen in a way I don't want to be seen? And I think that's something everybody who is a personal brand, who puts their own passion out into the world, has to negotiate that question and negotiate how they do that and how they kind of stay confident with your message yourself, even in the face of people not receiving it very well. So your brand is an expression of you, and your product is an expression of your brand. So essentially, your brand is the packaging of your offer, and the packaging is your truth and your authenticity. Sounds easy, right? Maybe not so much. So the shadow of this gate is going to create a lot of confusion. So when you're reflecting on this, we're going to reflect on the energy of the gate itself. And I do recommend getting multiple sources when you're reflecting on gate energy. But I really like to start with the Richard Rudd perspective, his big Gene Keys book, the one that's super thick. And I usually start there because I love the way that it positions the shadow, the gift, the city of all the different gates. And it's so much more than just a 3 paragraphs or less of explanation of that energy, kind of from the human design perspective. So I like to merge the two. Gene Keys can be very esoteric in its language. So that's why I like to have that human design perspective as well as the Gene Keys perspective, because it can be really difficult to translate from the Gene Keys perspective what that actually means of what you're going to do and say and be and offer in your business. And it can take a little bit of reflection and negotiation and comparing, what does that actually mean for me? What is my experience of that energy, and what are past situations that have felt right? And I think that's where it really takes that mental gymnastics to kind of figure out what is your truth within the context of that energy. So signs of having kind of that shadow and that confusion can be low sales or low engagement with your content, attracting the wrong people or attracting people for the wrong things, not being fully clear yourself about what you sell and to who, or thinking that you're clear about it and not getting any traction. And that's probably a really good indication that you're not clear yourself. So you have to kind of go back to that drawing board of, where am I putting up walls and obscuring what my true expression is and my true communication of how I help and what problem I can solve for others. So I've got a direct quote from Richard Rudd here. Once you can see through this shadow, you will probably experience some kind of breakthrough as you realize how easy and profitable it really is to be you. And I find that so encouraging for anybody who's trying to make it as a personal brand, for our coaches, our course creators, for people who are out there helping people with their light that they're shining on the world. And it's really incredible to kind of think that really it can be as simple as I express my truth through the messaging of my brand. And that's basically what it's all about. So authenticity, they've done some work with authenticity, and I'm not going to really go into depth of what it really was, because I don't really remember all the details, but it was, I think it involved Faraday cages and measuring the actual frequency and hertz of different emotions. And what they found was authenticity vibes higher than any other frequency, any other emotion, including love. So everyone kind of, the hypothesis is that love was going to be kind of the pinnacle of all of these emotions when they put it through this testing sequence that they did. But what they actually found was the highest vibration was authenticity. So I think human design is really what helps you sort out what's true for you and what isn't. And then the reflection piece helps you gain clarity on how you want to consciously express that in your business, in your messaging, in your marketing, or just in your life. And I think, to me, I talk about taking it off of the default setting, taking your decision making off of the default setting, and starting to explore why you're doing things the way you're doing, and do you want to do things in those ways. So that's, to me, that's a real benefit of reflection. So then the strategy and authority comes in to help keep you within the navigational beacons, making decisions that are keeping you on that right path and keeping you speaking your authentic voice and your authentic truth in your messaging, in your marketing. Hi there. I see I have someone joining me live. Welcome. It's so exciting to see you. So the lines of your brand are going to help you with your messaging and the way you position a lot of your products. So this is, again, the Gene Keys perspective. I'm mashing Gene Keys and human design together in one big pile. But I really like the way that they express together, because I think it helps you really narrow down how are you going to position yourself and position your marketing. So line one. So this is the line of your conscious sun. So you'll have a gate number, a decimal, the line after it. And you want to reflect on both the gate number as well as the line number. So line one, you have the courage to be bold. It's about boldness. It's about security. And you're the line that does their research in depth. And your brand is going to be grounded in the knowledge and this confidence that you've done that research, that you know, and you are an authority on the subject that you're speaking on. Now, the shadow of this line can play on people's fears, but in a healthy expression, you're going to help others transform their fear into feeling secure. Line two is passion and image. It's the expression of passion through your life's work. And it's not as much about content as the way you present your content. Your style is going to be important. The presentation is going to be important. Your aesthetics are going to be very important to your brand. So the other brands can maybe get away with a little bit more fuzziness in the aesthetic that they present, but your line twos are really going to want to narrow in on that image of the brand. Line twos are, okay, so the performance that you do in your brand is going to be important, and it's always going to be an art form in the way that you're communicating about your truth and about your product. You're going to use images. Images are really pretty critical to the way that you communicate, whether that's descriptive images or it's the visuals that you utilize. And this is how you project your brand. You're going to incite passion in others by demonstrating your own passion for life, for your offer, for the way that you solve this problem for people. And aesthetics are really key for line two. Line one and line two, you guys have this physical perspective in the way that you're presenting within your brand. Line three, line four, you're going to have an emotional perspective. So let's look at line three. Humor is your secret weapon. You, as a line three, are very experiential. You gain all of this experience on the perspective of pain and pleasure. You get it all, and you're able to communicate that all of those experience and package those experience in a way that others find entertaining, that help them laugh at themselves, and that help them kind of take some of the seriousness out of life and out of the things that we're all going through. So your humor is developed from experiencing all these variations in your path. And you package your experience in a funny way. And that's what's going to help you express that to your people, to your fractal line clients. It also helps you be very compassionate with your people when you're a three line, because you have experienced all the different variations of energy. And it helps you it helps you have that compassion for others and what they're going through, and helps them feel good about themselves. So if you're looking at messaging specifically, you want to be encouraging and empowering to others in your brand, and in the voice that you're speaking to others. Line 4, it's communicating through the heart. This is all about passion. It's all about love for what you do, love for what you are, like the people that you're working with and the problems that you're solving, and the way that you're kind of living is through this passion and heart forward approach to life. You have a higher ideal that you're communicating to others. And if you look at 1 and 2 being that physical perspective, you're moving beyond the physical perspective with people to kind of go for the goals, go for the things that are really important to them in their life. So that's the transmission and the messaging that you want to kind of lean into as a 4 line. So 5 and 6 lines, they have more of a mental perspective. So if you are a 5 line, you are the wise one. And you're here to offer practical solutions to the world. And you are going to be very practical in the way that you message. You're going to want to be very clear about what your problem is that you solve for the people around you. But you're going to have to really walk this fine line between listening and action, because 5 lines can be perceived as quite abrupt to the rest of the world, because you can cut through the garbage. You can cut through the confusion and find that lowest common denominator that helps people solve problems. But sometimes people's feelings can get a little bit hurt when you don't have that compassion for the feeling. So it does become this balance for, I do have a solution to this problem, but packaging it in a way that people will actually listen to the message that you're here. But your role, when you're thinking about this from a branding perspective, is your role is the guide. Now, line 6, you are the visionary. You have the compassion or the capacity to change people's worldviews. With the 6th line, you've moved beyond a lot of the problems of the physical and the emotional. And now you're talking about how can we make the world a better place? You're talking about higher level things typically. And the communication, because your vision usually is pretty grand, and it's not a simple concept to communicate, you're going to need to educate the people in your world and in your brand about what you do. And it takes time. So you do that through education and through positioning yourself as, and again, I'm jumping back to human design terms, but the role model in your brand and in the way that you're communicating. So I hope this helped you guys at least give you something to think about in the way that you're presenting yourself, and some of the things that you're doing. A lot of your branding, if you really do that work of reflection and do some of the work of removing the obstacles to expressing yourself from your true and authentic voice, you don't really have to do as much. Although I think it's an important exercise as a brand to think about how you're consciously expressing certain ideals within your messaging, your marketing, and your offers. So happy reflecting, everyone. Also, if you want help with unpacking your chart, with applying the concepts of human design to business, I can help you with this. I've got a link somewhere in the description that you can click on, and that will bring you to a page, and we can book a one-to-one session, and I can help kind of break down all the different elements, and we can talk about it from a business perspective. So check out that link if you are interested. And again, thank you for joining me all the way to the end, and we will see you again.
Hey, VIP day sessions are available now. If you're looking to get help in your business right now with one-to-one support, looking at your design and how it works with your business, this is the session for you. Click the link below and book now.